Hello everyone, welcome back to Lucky Crit. As I'm sure you're all aware, we just received a brand new trailer for Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. Being just over 2 months out from launch and still knowing very little about the game, it did seem likely that we would learn at least a bit more in the coming days, so it's not too surprising that it's finally here, but boy did this throw me for a loop. This trailer recontextualizes everything that we knew so far about this game, and I don't think fans were ready for this. So let's break it down and take a closer look. The trailer begins with some tidbits of text. We can see Byleth fighting with the purple-haired character once again, just like from the first trailer. However, this time it seems to be a much earlier incarnation of the two fighting. If you remember, in that first trailer we had a Sothis-powered Byleth fighting this character, and the background was much more fiery. The new purple-haired character also unlocked some new powers thanks to their deity, that Sothis foil character. And if you take a closer look here, both Byleth and the purple-haired character are using different swords than they were in that later fight. And this new character was also dual-wielding in that original trailer too. So it seems like maybe this is the first time that they clash, and we'll be seeing several fights between them throughout the game. The intercut text reads, "Before you, the one standing in your way, the most formidable enemy, the Ashen Demon," revealing that Byleth, or some form of Byleth, will be an antagonist in Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. Worth noting here that it's unclear what sword Byleth is using, but it's clearly not the sword of the creator, and obviously not the same one that gets broken in the fight later. I'm gonna jump ahead for a moment, but we'll come back to this. We're then finally formally introduced to this purple-haired character, who's known as Shaze, or Shez, or Shay. It's not clear just yet, but I'm gonna say Shaze for now. Like Byleth, Shaze's name also appears to draw connections to a demon from the Ars Goetia, though it's unclear which of these parallels will be focused on. With an aptitude for stealing, does this explain Shaze's apparent stealing of Byleth's role in the story? Or the manipulation of the timeline to make this happen? It's worth noting, like as we speculated based on Shaze's swords on the box art, Shaze's armor appears to look quite similar to Kranya's, supporting that Agarthan look. Larva also seems to have this connection too. We also learn here that not only is Shaze a foil for Byleth, but actually a gender-selectable main character, who also appears to be a mercenary in the game too, and also with a deity's voice in his head. So, pretty much the same. Just a purple-colored Byleth. Interesting. Like Byleth, you'll also be able to rename Shaze to whatever you want in the game, so don't envision main characters' voice actors shouting your name throughout the game's story. It'll be interesting to see if Shaze is also a silent protagonist. Shaze even gets basically the same gender select screen as Byleth here, really echoing it and further cementing this shared connection between the two characters. This fight looks to end with Shaze losing, and judging from a tweet from the official Fire Emblem Warriors Twitter page, it seems like Shaze might actually die to Byleth here on the battlefield. However, it seems like they're going to be saved by that new deity character, who we've now learned is named Arvel, or Larva. This character is a mysterious being that appeared in the protagonist's dreams, saved by the protagonist just as they were about to lose their life to the Ashen Demon, and talks to them as if living in the protagonist's head. Sometimes behaves as if something is missing. So is this a deity created by the Agarthans or the Shambalans? An artificial deity? What's missing about this character? Either way, here's this purple character's version of Sothis, literally, even speaking into their mind. In retrospect, should this have been obvious? In the first Fire Emblem Warriors, we had Rowan and Leanna revealed as the new Warriors' original characters, and they were the main characters of the story. But because of our strong connections with Byleth, and how they craftily edited that original trailer, there was never a moment where we emotionally sided with Shaze. It was never even a thought that Byleth could have been a villain in this game. We just assumed that Byleth would play the same role as always, so that was some pretty masterful misleading. Bravo. We then get some shots of Shaze in action. Once again, the third bar is present at the bottom, this time with a sword icon, since that's what they wield. Once again, does not show any other allies apparent on the battlefield, unless for simplicity's sake they become minimized into the blue circles of allied forces, but more on this later. Keeping to the Three Houses aesthetic, this game is also going to have 3 diverging story paths. While initially this may seem like the death knell to the popular fan theory that we'll be getting a golden ending, I don't think people should give up hope just yet. Maybe one of these endings could still be a golden ending, or perhaps some DLC could also result in such an ending if that won't be the case. The story paths, also keeping in line with Three Houses fashion, are called Scarlet Blaze for Edelgard's route, Azure Gleam for Dimitri's, and Golden Wildfire for Claude's. There's a bunch of stuff here to discuss. Firstly, we get another shot of Hubert, and it really looks like he might be talking to Ferdinand. Not that there'd be any shock to Ferdinand being in the game, but we haven't seen him just yet, so that's pretty cool. We also finally get to see Dedue in all his glory. And just as we speculated in that first trailer, the hand-grabbing Dimitri's was indeed Dedue's. Aw, that's cute. His new beard is also pretty interesting. Side note, a lot of fans have been speculating that these new character designs could be mid-timeskip designs, but I'm not so sure. They're probably still just timeskip designs. Mid-timeskip designs seem like a lot of effort for a short period of time in the story, unless the whole story is supposed to take place in that short period of time, but especially with all these new details, I don't think that's going to be the case, personally. There could also be no timeskip at all, and these could just be character upgrade outfits and function just the same as timeskip designs. So I guess we're just going to have to see. The next line from Claude might be a hint as to how he and the other lords meet Shays, so let's take a listen.
I love how you can bump into someone in the woods one night and suddenly you're living under the same roof the next.
So maybe that's how Shays meets the other lords, if we're keeping in line with Three Houses fare. You'll have to pick a path, right? So maybe Shays meets all three in the beginning after finding them in the woods. That would be pretty reminiscent. We now get to see our first close-up of Hilda. She was sneakily featured in the first trailer, but it was from the back and she was far away, so it's nice to finally get to see her up close now. Her new hairstyle is very elegant and refined. As an almost separate entity within the trailer itself, we then jump to fire being shot along the battlefield, possibly from a dragon or from Rhea as the Immaculate One. We then see Flayn discussing bloodshed, and magic and fighting amongst the army soldiers. From the framing of this trailer, it doesn't really seem like there would be a Silver Snow equivalent route here, but I guess that could always be a surprise, or maybe these elements involving the monastery will just be dealt with in the three paths. I suppose since we're getting away from that original story, maybe we're getting away a little bit from Rhea specifically and focusing more on this new deity character opposing Sothis. We then get another look at the interesting new way that this game will progress on the map of Fodlan. The player can freely move about, world map RPG style, to lead the charge, and we also get to see the player trading with merchants for advanced seals. This character on the map here is Anna, and I guess she's probably running her not-so-secret shop. And it looks like Edelgard is very much back to her old ways, as the story maps here discuss clearing a path for conquest of Garreg Mach by defeating the Church of Seiros' army. So Edelgard's path seems, of course, to still be headed for the monastery. We're also in Leicester again, like Edelgard was in the first trailer, approaching Garreg Mach from the east, so this must be part of that storyline somehow. If this trailer is any indicator, this game is going to feature a lot of Three Houses mechanics, even down to stat boosters, and it's a reward here for the Battle of Garreg Mach. Very interesting. Edelgard's new non-Eimer axe is named Labronda, and we can see here that she's in the Fortress Knight class, at least in this trailer playthrough. Worth noting here is that Labronda has a silver frame around it, not a gold one like relics, so this axe, while special, isn't a relic. This makes sense as it looks way more normal than the other relics of Three Houses, so it's just a sacred weapon that she got somehow. We can see that you'll get to deploy various allies to the battlefield, as per usual Warriors games, but it's interesting that we haven't seen any other allies present in screenshots, unless stylistically this is to keep the minimap clean, and only the character that you're directly playing has their icon appear. Maybe the other allies are just within those blue circled forces. Over to the right we can see what almost looks like a weakness chart, but that wouldn't make sense in regards to Edelgard's class. So maybe this is just based on the battalion that Edelgard has equipped, and they use lances. And perhaps this is sort of a map recommendation for what battalions should be used. For example, maybe this means that foot soldiers would be really important to bring here, or maybe on other maps with hazardous terrain, there could be more exclamation points above the flying units. We then switch to Shays, and we can see that his battalion appears to be using axes, and the recommendations here stay the same, so that's gotta be it. Shays' class is called Flügel, which means wing in German, and also has name connections with the harpsichord instrument, which is somewhat like a dual keyboard piano. It's unclear at this point if any of these definitions actually have anything to do with Shays, but Fire Emblem always features symbolism within their naming schemes, and specifically with that instrument, I could see some cool symbolism with Shays and Byleth being like the dual sets of keys on the harpsichord instrument, both playing their own story. Here we get to see a combined menu of combat arts and magic, which is really nice, and once again implies some heavy emphasis and leaning into a lot of the features from Fire Emblem Three Houses. There's a lot of familiar combat arts and magic shown here, and we get to see their cooldown time and durability cost to Shays' weapon. meaning that weapon durability is a feature of this game, and you'll be breaking weapons with the combat arts just like Three Houses. There's also the various battalions returning in the game here too. They appear to have some new effects, which makes sense considering the combat of this game is going to be completely different. The weapon triangle is going to be present, at the very least from battalion effects. We can see that the Empire Duelist Battalion, who wields swords, will grant a 1-tier advantage against enemies with axes, with a damage reduction of a steep 45%. This mission's objective is to seize all the strongholds within the monastery, which is pretty typical Warriors fare, and we get to see that Shaze and Edelgard do have their own distinctive sprites visible on the minimap here. So I don't know if that means that just in those other moments, it was only one character on the entire battlefield for certain missions, or maybe those are just earlier on missions where you didn't have that many characters. We'll have to wait and see. Now we see Edelgard as an armored lord, and the player is controlling units to help her. This unit looks to be Monica, and she's got the options of moving, healing, assigning as an adjutant, another returning feature, and all-out defense for Edelgard. As a reminder, we also did tie Monica's earrings to Edelgard's armor, so this part wasn't too much of a surprise, but it is cool to see that she is indeed going to be playable. There are some other sprites here, but they don't look to be typical Black Eagle students. It's a blonde girl in what looks to be a mage class, and someone else who might be blonde in an archer class. It's a little hard to see. So either generic allied troops that you could command, or even more brand new characters. It's unclear. This was indeed Monica, and she's also in the mage class and wielding a tome called Windcaller's Genesis. An interesting note here is that Saint Macuil is actually known as the Windcaller. The crest of Macuil was the only crest to not be possessed by a single playable character in Three Houses. Edelgard and Constance's supports suggested that the crest of Macuil existed in the Empire at some point, but it never actually manifested in the game. We never got a chance to use it. However, what if Monica has this crest and is now playable in Three Hopes with it? Maybe that was the reason for her kidnapping before the events of Three Houses. That would be deep and super cool. We can see that Adjutants will work much as they did in Three Houses, and also like other pair-up options from the first Warriors game, with dual partner specials. There's also now going to be a battle prep featuring a Three Houses monastery-esque explorable encampment, where you'll get to explore base camp and do various other activities. This includes training with allies, which seems to master either classes or skills, and also raises support bond between units. It's probably classes, as we then get to see this little montage afterwards of class mastery occurring. We then get to have our first glimpse of Lawrence looking regal as ever, with sort of a mixed design between his original haircut and his timeskip haircut, which is pretty cool. The best of both worlds, if you ask me. And this whole scene kind of looks like those weekly tasks from Three Houses, so maybe you'll be assigning characters to do chores around base camp for some extra support and goodies too. As in the recent screenshot dump that I've yet to speak about, we also get to see Mercedes eating lunch with Dimitri and Shez, so the dining hall is definitely returning in base camp. Perhaps this will give pre-battle bonuses and support increases between characters. Side note, I'm glad Mercy is keeping her longer hair this time. We then get to see a shot of what looks to be one of Shaze's swords spinning and falling into the ground, with a flinching Claude in the background. So I wonder if this is Shaze blocking an attack and saving Claude here, really reminiscent of Byleth saving Edelgard in one of those early Three Houses cutscenes. We then see a new character that looks rather like Claude, but is also evil or super angry. So could this be one of his Almiran siblings that we didn't know about, or a rival of his from Almira? Is this whose attack that Shaze just blocked? Could this be a brother coming to take Claude's claim on the Almiran throne? Maybe we'll finally get to learn more about Claude, or should I say Khaled, in this game, and we'd all be excited to get that. Someone with a teal sleeve is holding their hand out here toward Dimitri, but it's still unclear as to who this could be. I don't think we've seen anyone with teal sleeves quite like this so far. It could actually be Rodrigue, which would fit in with Dimitri's storyline, so that's definitely a possibility. This shot is super interesting. It's really hard to make out, but it looks like Shaze is helping to carry someone around, and I think it could be Dedu or Dimitri, although the armor does not quite match. It seems like a Blue Lions character based on the colors of blue and gold here, and judging by the fact that we're seeing it after two shots featuring Dedu and Dimitri, maybe this is a moment in the Azure Gleam or Blue Lions story. The text here implies that Shaze is a mercenary who is meant to fade into the waves of history. So it seems to me that it will definitely be Larva, the new deity character, who will save Shaze from death. Will this permanently alter the timeline into what this game's story becomes? Are you fighting for the wrong side against Byleth? The trailer ends with this deity character implying that they're partners in destiny.
We're partners in destiny.
You'll notice that this voice is pretty familiar. We'll come back to it. To many fans' excitement, we also finally get a glimpse at what looks to be Hilda's brother Holst, who is noticeably absent from Fire Emblem Three Houses, but spoken of quite a bit. It's not clear who he's fighting, but they almost look like a grappler class with two shields on their arms. I suppose it's possible that he's just sparring with his father, or perhaps this is another Count character that he'll be facing off against, like Count Burgles, but we'll have to wait and see. We then hear what sounds like an NPC character discussing the upcoming battle, which seems to be against Byleth.
Gonna be one hell of a fight, especially if the Ashen Demon is here. Don't like a smidge of what I've heard about that fella. Or was it a woman?
To our surprise, we also get to see a character select screen for the Ashen Demon, or quote-unquote evil Byleth's, gender. So it won't solely be a female Byleth present in the game either. And why have the player select their gender if Byleth won't also be playable? So maybe this is just a big fake out. Maybe we're meant to see Byleth as the villain, but they're clearly not the main villain of the story. Maybe after beating Byleth as a mid-game villain, the story will refocus around the true villain. So maybe Larva manipulates Shays into thinking that Byleth is evil, but that's not actually the case. And that brings this awesome new trailer to a close. We're not done here just yet though. In going back to the original trailer and re-reviewing it with the new context that we've gained, it's clear that the person talking about the cycle of the world and not allowing it to perish with you is indeed the new deity character Larva.
The cycle of this world, I will not allow it to perish with you. We're partners in destiny.
And seemingly speaking of Byleth, does Shays combine with Larva like Byleth does with Sothis? Is that what this new power is? Meaning Larva will probably disappear at a certain point in the story too? Or is Larva/Arvel actually more of the final boss? This Reddit user searched the Japanese writing of Arvel's name and found that it led to a definition of larvae or lemures, who were shades or spirits of the restless or malignant dead in the Roman religion. Is this why Larva saves Shays? Seeing Shays' death at the hands of Byleth and seeking its own malevolent revenge, it revives Shays and influences them with its vendetta against Byleth. Is Larva an ancient Agarthan god coming to seek revenge on Sothis? Is Larva a dragon and the real final boss? Uh-oh. Maybe it was also obvious that we were going to be getting 3 story paths here too, as we are introduced to the 3 lords in this original trailer, but they all appear to be fighting on completely different maps or battlefields. While this could have just been an aesthetic choice and these moments could have been taken at random from throughout the game, it does seem like it was a slight hint that we didn't pick up on. So T-minus 2 months. If you enjoyed this trailer analysis and speculation of this upcoming game, get subscribed to stay up to date on the latest Fire Emblem news. If and when we hear anything, I'll be sure to cover it, and I'll be doing my classic trailer breakdowns and analyses of any information that we get in the lead up to the game. So be sure to stick around the Lucky Crit channel. If you like this video, please slash the thumbs up down below to help out the video. Share it too if you'd like. Be sure to let me know your thoughts on this information in the comment section down below. Are you excited about these new wrinkles in the overarching story of Three Houses? Let me know. I want to thank the patrons for supporting the channel and helping make videos like this possible. You can also become a channel member by clicking down below and getting some cool exclusive emotes. I'll be sure to do a bit more streaming in the near future, so stay tuned for that as well. And if you use alternative platforms like BitChute, Odyssey, or Rumble, be sure to also follow Lucky Crit over there, as I'll be producing some exclusive content for those sites eventually that you won't find on YouTube, and you can even follow our Instagram account if you'd like. And I'll see you all next time.